Good morning. This is your 8:15 daily operations weather briefing. That winter weather storm we've been tracking has moved into the region this morning, with seeing some snow starting in the area in the early morning hours this morning. I did see it at times switching over to more of a freezing rain and starting to see it switching back to more of a snow locally here at Wallops, points well north, staying in the snowfall. And we are expecting continued messy conditions as we move through the morning hours, likely transitioning to all rain at Wallops as we get into the afternoon. And we'll see another chance for some snow this evening before the system moves out of the area, bringing in some much colder conditions. If we take a look at the current surface analysis, we could see the system moving into the region. Again, plenty of reflectivity here. We are expecting another area of low pressure to develop just off the coast as this pulls away. That's going to help enhance that potential for some light snow this evening. And as it pulls away, it's going to keep that pressure gradient tight and keep those breezy to windy conditions at time over the next several days as much colder air moves into the area. So we look at our current conditions, seeing overcast at 400 feet, visibility at 2 miles, and seeing some light freezing rain being shown on the observation this morning, and starting to see that transition to light snow as we did have that brief period of that transition wintry mix, and then bringing back light snow into the area now. Winds generally out of the east-northeast at 7 knots, temperature 32 degrees, and our relative humidity is at 92%. If we look at the current local radar here, we can see lots of snow reports off to the north, and again, we have seen some snow here locally at Wallops, and a brief transition to that wintry mix, and then now starting to transition back to more of a snow. And then we'll see that as we go through the morning, and then more so into the afternoon, we'll see things transitioning most likely over to an all rain moving through the afternoon time frame. If we zoom out, look at the current radar and satellite picture here, we can see lots of reflectivity across the region still to come through the area. Again, as we get into the later morning and afternoon time frame, points south on the peninsula likely seeing that transition of snow to light rain, and then points mainly Salisbury and north will likely stay snow through the entirety of this event as it pushes through. If we look at the high resolution model, just to see how things play out as we move through day to day, NAM model doing pretty well with the picture this morning, as you can see, indicating that transition line just over the Wallops area, as we did see over the last hour or so, and then showing a brief transition back to some light snow at times as we move through the morning. And then as we get into the afternoon, we'll see here kind of points north of Salisbury seeing continuing snowfall, with points south getting a wintry mix, and then eventually becoming all rain here in the Wallops area. And that continues as we move through the afternoon, with some light to moderate rain during the afternoon, slightly breezy conditions, and then possibly some wintry mix at times as we get later in the afternoon, as that second area of low pressure develops off the coast and starts to pull away. We'll see colder air start to come in behind that, with a brief period of some light snow possible as we get into the later evening hours and for the first part of the overnight here. As you can see, NAM model showing that it's transitioning to snow, and then should see that precip start to wrap up as we get past the midnight to 1 a.m. time frame, and we'll see that tight pressure gradient here indicating some breezy to windy conditions, and those thickness values quite low, with that colder air ushering in, likely seeing some potential wind chill values down in the low teens, maybe even into the single digits as we get into the start of the day on Tuesday. For the next couple days, we'll see dry weather with mainly partly cloudy to mostly clear conditions, but we'll keep those windy conditions around. As you can see, that tight pressure gradient continues through Tuesday, lightens up a bit Tuesday evening, but still stays fairly tight as we move through Wednesday as well. But as you can see, no precip expected, just some breezy and very cold and chilly conditions over the next couple of days. So if we look at the 24-hour weather risk chart for today, we do have those red colors for precip as we move through the daytime hours today, and keeping a red to orange condition for those reduced ceilings and visibilities. Again, expecting periods of light rain and snow as we move through the morning time frame, Could see it transitioning to all snow at times, and it's going to reduce those visibilities possibly down to 1 mile, and those ceilings staying below or at that 500-foot level. And we'll see those winds staying out of the east to east-northeast, 8 to 13 knots, peaking around 18 knots as we move through the morning. As we get into the afternoon, as mentioned, we'll see a transition over to an all-rain category as we move through the afternoon. We'll see our high temperature today around 39 degrees. So that's going to help that transition to all rain. And we'll see winds shifting more northeasterly as that low pressure develops off the coast. And we'll see 10 to 15 knots for our winds, with our peak winds up around 21 knots as we get to the afternoon. And we'll see those climbing as we go into the evening, continuing with light rain. And then as we get past that 19 to 20 local time frame, we'll be transitioning over to light snow, possibly a pocket of some moderate snow through that time as well. But seeing those winds more northerly, 10 to 15 knots, gusting up to 22 knots, is when we pick up that yellow risk for those winds that are above 25 knots. And then that jumps up to an orange risk and then eventually a red risk as those winds will steadily increase, likely peaking out of the northwest, 12 to 17 knots, gusting up to 27 knots as we move through the morning time frame of Tuesday, particularly as we get that light snow tapering off after the midnight to 1 a.m. time frame. That's when we'll really start to see those winds start to pick up, and we'll start to see some of those clouds breaking as well. So cooler air moving in, with our low temperature expected tomorrow morning around 20 degrees. And we see here we do pick up that yellow risk for those wind chill values below 10 degrees, as we will have a chance of seeing some single digit wind chills as we move through the start of the day on Tuesday. Tides running normal right now, and as we look at the next couple days, main story will be those windy and cooler conditions. We'll see a red risk for those winds that are above 25 knots through Tuesday. Breezy and cold, high of 34 degrees overall, partly cloudy. Again, those wind chill values likely down in the teens to possibly reaching the low 20s at times. We'll be back in the teens and possibly reaching single digits once again Tuesday evening with a low of 21 degrees, and keeping a yellow risk for those winds that are above 25 knots, expecting slightly breezy conditions to continue. And then back to breezy conditions as we get into the daytime hours on Wednesday. High expected around 33 degrees, breezy and cold once again, wind chill values likely in the teens to possibly low 20s, and an orange risk for those winds at or above 25 knots. That's going to wrap up the 8:15 daily operations weather briefing. We'll be back again at 10 a.m. to take a look at the extended forecast. Enjoy your morning.